very in depth. Like it's so much that can kind of uh, promote to one hypocrisy, and you could really expound on this lesson. Like for example, one could be a hypocrite because of fear, one could be a hypocrite because of pride and all that and all so on and so forth. And you can actually find examples of each one in the scripture, right? But I didn't really want this to be a long lesson like that. And a lot of the scriptures are just repeatable. So I'll just try to get to the core of it. So that's what we're going to deal with by hypocrite. And honestly, this is something that, like, I don't think, we say we understand, but I don't know. But when the Lord came, he really came to try to get his church in order. That's what he came for. He came to get his church in order. He came to get his people in order. And a lot of the teachings and a lot of the, drastic actions, like flipping over tables and all that other stuff that Jesus showed, it was towards churchgoers. It was towards people that say they believe, but they don't. Either they are trying to pretend or, all of it is pretending, but either they like have this outward showing and then inside the house they doing dirt or whatever, or they doing things for money or whatever the case may be. It was never truly as a whole. Everybody didn't really believe in God, and not too much has changed here in 2022. I talked to a couple teachers throughout the country about things that's going on in their camp and stuff like that, and it's not too much of a difference. So that's why I ended up deciding to do this. So we're gonna start this off at Matthew 5:17, and we see where it goes. Like I said, I took away a lot of stuff, but depending on how this conversation goes, if I'm gonna add it or not. Matthew 5, and we're gonna pick it up at verse 17. Go ahead.
Think not that I come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill.
Right, and we can look at that in Acts, that's what Christ did. He just came to fulfill the sins of man and do it. Not come to destroy the law or the prophets. So that's something that is need to be addressed, because even individuals in the truth, they feel that things changed once Jesus Christ showed up, and it didn't. It didn't at all. Everything was still in motion how he set it up. He just came to make individuals more accountable. And he made it where not only are they more accountable, that he can get his house in order once again, because it was all flipped upside down. So think not I come to destroy the law or the prophets. I have not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Go ahead.
18. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled.
Right, until everything be fulfilled. Death got to be taken over. All that stuff that is written in the Old Testament has to be fulfilled. Till then, there's nothing that is that is done away in the law. Like, people try to bring up animal sacrifice. Well, animal sacrifice done away with. Actually, it's not. Right? It's not done away with. It's on pause. And even then, the Bible talk about sacrifices of righteousness that we are dealing with now, that people don't even really think of or try to talk about. But yeah, there's no animal sacrifices no more. But now we actually dealing with sacrifices of righteousness, which is something a little bit different. But nevertheless, there's nothing. And once again, the sacrifices of righteousness was coded of in the Old Testament as well. So it's not like that changed. Somebody would try to say, love your neighbor. That's not changing, neighbor in Leviticus. So nothing has changed. So he's telling you one jot or one tittle in no wise shall pass from the law until all be fulfilled. People are still dying, and that's because the law is still on the table and everything is still going forth. Verse 19.
Whoever shall break one of the least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever shall do and teach them.
Verse that has been misconstrued a lot. And even when I brought it up and talked about it, individuals that will be more of an elder, I would say, that try to chastise me on it because of the unfamiliarity of this actual scripture. But he said, therefore, shall break one of these least commandments, shall teach men so, he should be called the least of the kingdom of heaven. Some people try to make it seem like, hey, you break something, you go to the lake of fire, which absolutely that's right. But that's not what this is talking about in verse 19. This is talking about hypocrisy. And that's why we starting off this lesson, thy hypocrite. And when he came, this is Matthew 5. This is the beginning of his teachings. And this is what he is addressing. He addressing hypocrisy in the church. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so. So you are breaking the commandments, but yet you are teaching men to do the commandments. You're being a hypocrite. And he said, if you do so, you shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. And it says, whoever shall break one of these least commandments. So, and we all know there's no real hierarchy per se in commandments, right? I'm not trying to make it seem like one commandment weighs more than others, but we know in the scripture that, you know, there are some things that if you break, it's not so much of a severe law or a punishment as if you would, you do something else. So there is some type of order or the level of importance or seriousness when it comes down to the law. So if you break one of the least of them, though, but yet you teach the men to do so. So for example, like I use often, you know, I don't really rock fringes like that. I don't think there's a problem with it at all. But I can't sit here and run around and tell people to wear them, but I don't wear them, right? You are showing that you are a hypocrite, and that's what he is talking about. So if whosoever shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men to do these commandments, right? Teach men so, he shall be called the least of the kingdom of heaven. And then, did you finish that?
Yes.
And then it said, but whosoever shall do and teach them. So now you're doing both. You are doing them and you are teaching them. And it's not necessarily saying that you're doing all of them. Right? Because, you know, that's kind of a difficult thing to do in our time. But nevertheless, whatever it is that you say people should be doing, you are actually living it out. That's the big deal. A lot of people want to see, like we'll sit here and say, you got to keep the commandments, you got to do this and do that. How many of us really out here kind of trying to keep them? Like how many of us break the Sabbath often? I ain't gonna point no fingers. I don't want to see nobody raise their hand. But hey, we don't even know how to start the Sabbath or end the Sabbath. Some want to start at this time, some want to start at this time, but yet we want to run around and tell everybody we gotta keep the commandments. You're not even doing it, right? So that's what he is talking about. But yet, nevertheless, you are whatever it is that you are teaching, you are also walking it. If you do that, you shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So there's going to be some hierarchy in the kingdom of heaven. You're going to have some people that has more to, and the Bible talks about that when they talk about my servant this many cities, I give my servant that many cities, and all this other stuff. The Bible tells you throughout the Gospels, and even in the Old Testament, like I was talking to Ben a long time ago, not a long time ago, but like a year or so ago, I think. I don't remember. And go contrary, X, Y, Z, A, B, and C. So we see that there's some hierarchy in the kingdom of heaven, right? But something, and you're not doing it, then hey, you can be called least in the kingdom of heaven, and vice versa. If you're teaching them so, but yet you are also doing it, you will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Verse 20.
For I say unto you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven.
So why did he mention this? He mentioned this for a specific reason because of Matthew 23, I believe it is, Matthew 25, whatever it is. We're going to read it. He sat there and he said, he came out and specifically dealt with the Pharisees and Sadducees and their hypocrisy. That's what he dealt with. Throughout the whole time, he dealt with their hypocrisy. And then that's why verse 19 and verse 20 kind of deals with each other, because he sat there and said, don't be a hypocrite, because if you are, you be called least and or great if you don't. And then your righteousness have to exceed the righteousness of the Pharisees and Sadducees. And then he went on in verse 21, so on and so forth, start putting more on the table. I don't want to say put more on the table, but he just putting his house right in order. Because as we know, the Sadducees, and a lot of us today, is full of outward appearance. That's all we worried about. That's why if you go out on the corner, you see the traditional or you look. Why is that? Because like the Pharisees and Sadducees, it was all about appearance. And Jesus came and shook all of that. He was like, forget what you think. And to be honest, John the Baptist shook all of that too. John the Baptist was the first one who came and shook things up. Because John the Baptist wasn't really going off the status quo like all the holy individuals was. He was out there in the wilderness wearing camel's hair, eating locusts, all this other stuff, telling people about the Bible. This dude came prophet. Then you had Jesus Christ came a little bit later, who was of the community per se. He was doing the things that everybody else of the community was for the most part, like drinking and stuff. The Bible mentioned it. We're gonna look at it. But he was doing that, and they even dealt with him because he wasn't doing all the traditions like washing your hands and doing all this other stuff. He's like, forget that. So with these two comparisons and looking at the things that we already discussed, Pharisees and Sadducees were full of outward appearance and outward show. And look, it's no difference than what we're doing now. Some of us, we're going to keep it going. We're going to go to Romans 2. We're going to go to Romans 2. And as you read Matthew 5, it continue to talk about this and talk about that and showing how it's not just the out, about keeping things clean in the inside. But we're going to look at this, though. Romans 2, we're going to jump all the way to Romans 2 and verse 17. So we're dealing with hypocrisy on the matter. And personally, like, something that I've been understanding for a little bit, but I mean a little bit. I don't really argue with people too much anymore. I don't really, somebody says, unless somebody is actually teaching something and try to say something that's fact when it's clearly is not. I don't usually go back and forth. And the reason being is because, it's not necessarily like, how can I explain it? When somebody believe in something, like let's say, for example, birthdays, right? Let's say birthdays or something like that, right? They don't want to celebrate it. Okay, fine, whatever. They think it's bad. Okay, fine, whatever. They even tell some people that it's bad. Okay, fine, whatever, right? If that's how you feel to serve God, whatever, that's how I feel to serve God, right? But but weddings, like, okay, we can see literally when people got baptized, when people got married, when people did this, when people did that, how they operate. If you're not operating in that sense, but then don't want to celebrate birthdays because you think it's bad, now we pointing out, are we making ourselves more righteous? Are we doing, like, what is right? It's different if it's like, oh, I don't do anything cool, or I do this cool, I don't do it cool. Whatever this statement, that's why I don't really argue with them, because who am I to say that they're right or wrong? God don't care nothing about it. Somebody get married and they want to have this big old wedding and big old thing. Is that a problem? No, we can see weddings in the Bible. As far as what you view as important. And then that's why you start looking at things of a hypocrite and start seeing that a lot of times it's about them. Show out. Everything going to show and people going to end up seeing it no matter which way it is. Romans 2 and verse talks about that in Acts. The Bible talks about in Acts about judging things before a time. There's no need to, because everything gonna come out to light soon, no matter what the situation is. Romans 2 and 17. Go ahead, look at that. Go ahead.
Behold, thou art called a Jew, and restest in the law, and makest thou boast of God.
What are you talking about? We're talking about these Jews that is righteousness of themselves, right? Like they keep the law the best way, and they feel like that they are superior than somebody else. Behold, thou art called thyself a Jew, and restest in the law, and makest boast of God. So you focus on the law. That's what you all about, this the law, and you boast yourself to God. Verse 18.
And knowest his will, and approvest the things that are more excellent, being instructed out of the law.
Keep going.
And art confident that thyself art a guide of the blind, a light of them which are in darkness.
Right. That's what you think you are. Right? You think you are the light of all of them that are blind, and you are the individual that's showing them the way. Okay, hey, if you are, that's a good thing. I'm trying to be that, but hey, it be like that. Sometimes it don't really work out that way. But see how he's setting them up to, like, he's setting them up because they boasted themselves just to bring them down, per se, just to cut them up. Because he said, yeah, man, you boast in the law, you this and that, you the blind, you the leaders of the blind, you all this. And then he said this. Go ahead, keep going, verse 20.
An instructor of the foolish.
He's dealing with them in their hypocrisy. Like, that's what he's cautioning them about hypocrisy. Like, you sitting here resting on something and boasting yourself on something, whatever that is. Are you doing it? Like, think about it. Like, for example, robbing God by not giving tithes, right? So the thought process is you sitting here telling somebody don't steal. Are you doing it? And we don't really think about that, how the Lord judged something differently than how we judge it. We might think we doing everything right, and the Lord like, you ain't doing nothing at all. Dealing with a lot of those things. If the Lord would judge, right? If the Lord humbled in anything. But nevertheless, since that's not happening and people think they hide it in the dark, they can sit here and boast themselves against other individuals. Well, who does that? It literally don't make sense. So that's what the Paul dealing with. Like, yeah, you teaching all this, but are you actually stealing? Keep going.
22. Thou that sayest a man should not commit adultery, dost thou commit adultery?
Are you doing that? Now we know what adultery is. Adultery is when you look on a married woman with lust in your heart. That's the Lord sat there and said that, right? It's not just you sleeping with them, right? Also, adultery is, hey, I'm going to leave my wife. She ain't do nothing wrong and go marry somebody else. The Bible called that adultery. So now, hey, simply just because you're not sleeping with a married woman doesn't mean you're not an adulterer. Think about that. If it's that wide of a spectrum. So be careful how you run around judging people, especially if you don't have no idea what the situation is. We be so quick to judge something and not know anything. We'll say this and we say that, and then soon, and we'll keep it going. It says, thou shalt say a man should not commit adultery. Does thou commit adultery? Thou that abhorrest idols, does thou commit sacrilege? A lot of us did. A lot of us has Christmas trees in the house. A lot of us still dealing with these things. Maybe you don't know, maybe you do, but hey, that's something that you should pay to mind before you start judging anybody. Make sure you all in order. Keep going.
23. Thou that makest thy boast of the law, through breaking the law dishonorest thy God. For the name of God is blasphemed among the Gentiles through you, as it is written. For circumcision verily profit.
That's it. Let's go to James 2. James 2. James says something similar to as Paul did. And actually, I wanted to put James in there and not pull Paul in there. But, I felt like it was kind of thin. But like I said, I try not to repeat the scriptures and just try to build upon it. If I have to repeat it to build upon it, then I do so. But if not, I don't really try to, pad points. You know what I'm saying? Have 80 scriptures up on here and 30 of them saying the same thing just to have 80 scriptures up on here. Like I'm trying to teach something, honestly. I'm trying to get a point across. And not my specific point either. It's not necessarily that, sometimes I get passionate on some things and sometimes I don't. And it's not that Rashad got something to say or he feels some type of way about it. That's not even it. It's just sometimes certain topics, right, kind of put fire under me than others. And to be honest, you can ask Nia, you can ask a lot of other individuals that know of me, that deal with me, like my man Jay. I'm always asking if I'm a hypocrite, right? I'm always looking at myself. I'm always beating myself up. We got to understand, are all of us doing that? Guarantee not. Right? I'm more harder than myself than any one of you guys. And that's what Paul was talking about. Paul sat there talking about, I believe in Corinthians. He said, I don't care if y'all judge me. You can judge me how I'm worrying about God. But we don't have that. We don't have that mentality at all. Right? We so quick to judge everybody else, but we're not judging ourselves. And the Lord looking at that like, you hypocrite. Like, think about that. Like, Lord, he turned around and say, why you call me Lord and you don't do what I say? Like, these are actual comments he is saying to us in here. right? If we pass, next thing you know, we see the kingdom, and it's like, God, have I not preached? I went to the Sabbath every day. I did this. And he turned around and say, depart from me, ye that work iniquity. Right? So these are hypocrites that he is dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Or not a day, or yeah, because they saying they're Christians. So often, these are church individuals. Is this one of us? I know I judge myself upon it. Are you? That's something to think about. That's why Paul said what he said in Romans 2. Like, you saying don't steal. Do you steal? Like, think about it. Do you? Like, man, I don't know. Maybe. Well, the Lord said, if I don't tithe, I'm robbing God. So I guess I am stealing. All right, then. So be careful what you're sitting here trying to point the finger at, and make sure your house is in order. James 2:18. Go ahead.
Yea, a man may say, thou hast faith.
No, I don't want 18. Pick it up
Oh,
verse
8?
8.
All right.
Yeah, 8. James 2, and pick it up at verse 1. Because James 2, all of James 2 is dealing with hypocrisy. If you really look at it, he's dealing with people that are being hypocrites one way or another. James 2:1. Go ahead.
My brethren, have not the faith of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord of glory, with respect of person?
A hypocrite. Being a respected person. That's you being a hypocrite. You showing somebody else some love and not somebody, and it's because they got X, Y, and Z, or because they, whatever the case may be, but you aren't showing that same type of attention to somebody else. That's a hypocrite. The Lord called it specifically a respected person, but hey, thy hypocrite. That's what you are. Go ahead.
Verse 2. For if there come into your assembly a man with a gold ring and goodly apparel, and there come in also a poor man in foul raiment, and ye have respect of him that weareth the gay clothing, and say to him, sit thou here in a good place, and say to the poor, stand thou here, or sit here under my footstool. Are ye not then partial to yourselves, and become judges of evil thoughts?
Become judges of evil thoughts. Evil thoughts. Go ahead.
Verse 5. Hearken, my beloved brethren, have not God chosen the poor of this world rich in faith?
And he says this to show the opposite of how we think of it. He chose the poor rich in faith, but we looking at the rich. Right? Keep going.
And heirs of the kingdom which he hath promised to them that love him. But ye have despised the poor. Do not rich men oppress you and draw you before the judgment seat?
Go ahead.
Do not they blaspheme that worthy name by which ye are called? If ye fulfill the royal law according to the scriptures, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, ye do well.
Right, so if you treat everybody else like you do yourself, you do well, but we don't do that. If we treat everybody else as we treat ourselves, all of us will have very, very low self-esteem because we treat everybody else bad. Keep going.
Verse 9. But if ye have respect of persons, ye commit sin.
You commit sin. Go ahead, keep going.
And are convinced of the law as transgressors.
For
whoever shall keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all.
He's guilty of all of it. So if you keep it, so if you fail, if you break one commandment, you have death. Period. So no need to boast. Oh my goodness, like, and you have like some of the elders, some of the teachers, they might be going through things. They might be, some of their business might be out there, and people want to judge them as if their household in order. Oh my goodness, he got this. How many kids he got? That's not the mom. What? Where the mom at? Right? And then all of a sudden you start murmuring and start talking bad behind this dude back, whoever this individual is. But nevertheless, you sitting here watching porn every night, or something like that. Maybe not even that extreme. You don't want to, when the Sabbath start, if your show's still on, you still going to watch it for like another 30, 35 minutes before you cut it off. That's a sin. You breaking the Sabbath. Right? Something as small as that, you require death. But you want to judge everybody else for what? Like, get your stuff in order. And I'm showing you the small, minute things, not trying to put anybody on blast or nothing like that, and not try to say anything specific, but just trying to paint the picture that, hey, what we reading here in James, he said, if you offend one of them, you offend them all. Not necessarily saying that we can't keep it because it's too hard. That's what they try to say. Well, if that's the case, we can't keep it. It's too. No, he's not saying that. In other words, he's saying that be careful how you actually judging individuals. Don't you sit here and try to be a hypocrite, because you might be like Paul, for example. Paul said he kept the law blameless, but I bet he sinned. But yet, if he treat one of us a certain way because we ain't keeping the law, that can fall right back on him. Hopefully you guys understand what I'm saying. For whosoever shall keep the whole law and yet shall offend in one point, he is guilty of them all. Verse 11.
For he that said, do not commit adultery, said also, do not kill. Now if thou commit adultery, if thou kill, thou art become a transgressor of the law. So speak ye, and so do, as they that shall be judged by the law of liberty.
And he says, speak and do like them that are being judged by the law of liberty. What's that law of liberty? Right? James 1 talk about the law of liberty. James 1 verse, read this. James 1 verse 25. Look at that real quick.
James 1:25.
Yeah.
But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty and continueth therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deeds.
But you seeing the individuals that is looking towards the perfect law of liberty is that individual that is not being forgetful of. In John 8, he is the truth, and the truth shall make you free, right? Even Pilate in John 18, I believe it is, he was like, what is truth? It's the Lord. It's him. It's the law. It's what he's bringing. It's his testimony. So in the individuals that look upon that and walk therein, hey, they are, I'm going back to it, James 2. He said, so speak ye and so do as they that shall be judged by the law of liberty. And you want to be judged by the law of liberty, because the law of liberty is what makes you free. Being judged by the law itself, you go into the lake of fire, because we all break it. We would rather be judged by the law of liberty. That's what we want to be judged upon. That's what we want the Lord to see us with. So speak ye and do as they, or like they, that shall be judged by the law of liberty. So don't just talk about it, be about it. Which will be said in Matthew 5, that's what the Pharisees don't do. They don't do that. So he's telling us we have to do that. And if we don't, then our righteousness is not exceeding the righteousness of Pharisees. Because think about it, the Pharisees kept the law way better than us. The only way we can exceed our righteousness better than the Pharisees is if we teach and do, not just talk about it. So speak ye and so do, like they, or as they that shall be judged by the law of liberty. Verse 13.
For he shall have a judgment without mercy, that showed no mercy.
So if you ain't showing mercy on your neighbor, how you going to expect mercy? You can't. Go ahead.
And mercy rejoiceth against judgment.
And mercy rejoiceth against judgment. I mean, if you got mercy in the face of judgment, you won. You good. Matter of fact, let's go to Matthew 18. Do I have it up in here? No, I don't. Let's go to Matthew 18. Because I believe it's Matthew 18. We're going to see somebody who didn't show mercy at all, but yet was given mercy. A straight hypocrite. Matthew 18, and pick up at verse 20. Go ahead.
Therefore is the kingdom of heaven likened unto a certain king, which would take accounts of his servants.
All right, so this is like the kingdom of heaven. Go ahead.
And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought unto him, which owed him 10,000 talents.
So this dude owed 10,000 talents to this king. And it's not like nowadays you owe somebody, you can file for bankruptcy, you can get some time, maybe some payment plans or whatever the case may be. That's not how it was back then. If you owe somebody, they're selling your whole family. And they're going to be in labor until that thing paid off. And usually it's never paid off. Because for an example, if you get sold because you owe debt, a lot of times you still got to pay for your room and board. You got to pay for this. And that's putting you more in debt. So a lot of times you don't get out of that. So we have a servant that owed this king 10,000 talents. Let's see what happened. Verse 25.
But for as much as he had not to pay, his Lord commanded him to be sold, and his wife and children and all that he had, and payment to be made.
The whole family is thrown into prison because you owe him money. Right? Keep going. Verse 26.
The servant therefore fell down and worshipped him, saying, Lord, have patience with me. I will pay thee all.
So now he's praying for mercy. He want that mercy. Like, please be patient with me. Show me this grace. I will pay you. Keep going. Verse 27.
Then the Lord of that servant was moved with compassion and loosed him and forgave him in the debt.
And forgave him his debt. Go ahead.
But the same servant went out and found one of his fellow servants, which owed him 100 pence.
And that same individual went out and saw somebody owing him 100 pence. Extremely less worth than what he owed. Keep going.
And he laid hands on him and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me that thou owest. And his fellow servant fell down at his feet and besought him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay thee all.
The same thing he said. Let's see if he had that same mercy. Go ahead.
Verse 30. And he would not, but went and cast him into prison till he should pay the debt.
A straight hypocrite. Right? A straight hypocrite. And this is how we are amongst ourselves. Literally, he said this is a parable of the kingdom of heaven. That's what this is. This is not a thing that exactly happened. He's not telling a story of one individual. He's just saying, hey, these are how my servants are. The kingdom of heaven, the people that try to represent me, this is how they are. They are full in debt, full of sin. They come to me, I forgive them. But yet they go to somebody else that's in some debt, and they don't forgive them. They actually hold their feet to the fire because of that. How hypocritical is that? We say this prayer every Sabbath, right? Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Every Sabbath, hoping that the Lord forgive us our debts. But yet we turn around and somebody else commits some type of sin. Now all of a sudden we want to treat them a certain way. Or try to, like the Bible said in Proverbs, it says, a hypocrite destroyeth his neighbor by his mouth. Simply just murmuring and talking about people. Oh man, you see what that person did? Man, you see what happened in that? You see that man's household? Man, I know he doing something bad. He doing something. They have no idea what's going on. The same thing they did with David. Oh, boy said the same thing about David. Hey, man, oh, yeah, because what you did to Saul, all this come upon you. Had no idea what he was talking about. None. But we saw how David, the servant, handled it too. And that's another lesson. But we seeing how much of a hypocrite we are. Keep going. Finish that.
Verse 31.
Yeah, wherever you at, 31.
Verse 31.
Yeah.
So when his fellow servants saw that was done, they were very sorry, and came and told unto their Lord all that was done. Then his Lord, after that he had called him, said unto him, O thou wicked servant, I forgave thee all that debt, because thou desiredest me. Shouldest not thou also have had compassion on thy fellow servant, even as I had pity on thee?
Right? Should we? Absolutely we should. And look, personally, I'm not saying this as a brag, and hopefully this is not too brass, but not too many people have more body count than me, right? Not too many people, and I pray the Lord have mercy on that, right? But then if somebody up in here doing something they ain't supposed to, am I going to turn around and start railing over them? Nah, I'm gonna talk to them. Like, hey man, look, I've been there. Like Elijah talk about it all the time. He say that no one was more of a whoremonger than him. He don't know me that well. Honestly, he don't. But the point that I'm trying to say is the Lord sit here and forgave us for it, but then we turn around and what? Oh man, you did this? Oh man, look, I can't be friends with you no more. Man, come on. It don't make no sense. Keep going.
34. And his Lord was wroth and delivered him to the tormentors, till he should pay all that was due unto him.
So now he was delivered to the tormentors. So now he's going to the lake of fire for this. He's going to the lake of fire for this. For being a hypocrite. Read verse 34 again.
And his Lord was wroth and delivered him unto the
And
tormentors
deliver him to the tormentors.
till he should pay all that was due unto him.
And that's forever. You're not getting out of that. Like I said before, usually if your family is given to somebody else or sold to somebody else, you're usually gonna stay in that. Like your whole family gonna be known as servants. That's why in the law, the Bible made it where every 7 years Israel can get out, because usually you ain't gonna get out. Verse 35.
So likewise shall my heavenly Father do also unto you, if ye from your hearts forgive not every one of his brothers their trespasses.
Let's go to Matthew 7. Matthew 7 and verse 1. These things we read plenty of times. But I try to, I love when Jason teach, because that's my man for real. And oftentimes when he teach, he put a whole different type of spin on it to have you think about it a way you have never thought about it before. You're like, man, I never thought about it like that. Like when he mentioned in Psalms when it says, Jason Jermaine was talking about it a couple of weeks ago, when he said he slew the fattest of them, and how he was trying to describe the fattest of them as gluttony, though that wasn't necessarily the case, but he was trying to paint the picture for you, right? That's the attempt in this. Yeah, we read this 1,000 times, but are we really looking at it, or rather, are we judging ourselves with it? Or are we just coming up in here just listening? We got to judge ourselves with this. This is our only way out, is if we judge ourselves. If we don't judge ourselves and fix ourselves, when I mean ourselves, I don't mean like me judging you guys. I mean me judging me. Because the Lord, hey, you knew this, you're going to go to the lake of fire. You had your chance. Matthew 7 and 1, go ahead.
Judge not, that ye be not judged.
For
with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye meet, ye shall be measured to you again.
Same thing that we read in Matthew 18, right? He gave this individual a horrible sentence, but yet he sat there and asked for mercy. The Lord was like, nah, you can't get this mercy if you're giving sentences to everybody else. So that's what he's talking about. However you judge somebody is how you're going to be judged. If you want mercy, then best for you to have mercy. Don't be a hypocrite with it. Go ahead, verse 3. Or what? 3,
Verse
right?
3, yep.
Go ahead.
And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own eye? Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote out of thine eye, and behold, a beam is in thine own eye?
So pretty much the reason for this parable or this example, you don't even see clearly. You don't even know what you're looking at. Like, for an example, I'll use me. You know, a lot of times in my past relationships, all this other stuff, people see things on the outside and got something, don't even know anything that's going on, right? Because they don't talk to me, right? They talk to somebody else and they start murmuring, and they just create this whole little thing in their head, right? Don't know anything. That's what the Lord is talking about. How are you going to sit here and judge somebody and try to condemn somebody on something with a beam in your own eye? You're not even seeing clearly. So you being a hypocrite on the matter. Literally. He said, how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull that mote of thy own eye, and behold, there's a beam in your own eye. You don't even know what you're talking about at all, but yet you want to make this judgment. You a hypocrite. And that's what he said, verse 5.
Thou hypocrite.
Thou hypocrite. He called him that. And once you read already in Matthew 18 that you get thrown in the lake of fire for this. He sat there and said, if your righteousness don't exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you no way can enter into the kingdom. So that's a lake of fire sentence for being hypocrites. Thou hypocrite. Finish that.
First cast out the beam out of thine own eye, then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye.
Understand like, for example, it's this big old thing going on social media. I don't be on it like that, but when I do see it, I always see the same thing, right? People get all up in arms because of somebody dealing with somebody's cousin or something like that. And I don't know specifics, so I don't know all of that much, but what I do know, it's not against the law. So you sitting here trying to throw somebody in the lake of fire because he's dealing with his cousin. How can you sit here and judge and say, let me get this mote out of your eye, but you got a beam in your own eye? That's what he's talking about, right? There's a lot of things that we don't agree with in the Bible, especially like for our women, for example, because we know our women got a little shorter stick. There's not too much they can do when it comes down to the scriptures, right? Men can do a little bit more. They don't like that, right? And they will sit here and go against everything what it says in here about how they should conduct themselves, but then try to tell a man how he ain't a man. How can you judge like that clearly? It don't make sense. You being a hypocrite. That's what he is talking about. And this is something that we do all the time. All the time. Question and answer, it happens. No matter where you at, Vegas, LA, Chicago, no matter where you at, it's the same thing. So obviously we ain't taking heed to what the Lord is saying because we continue to do it. Where you at?
That's it.
Finish it?
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Luke 18. Luke 18 and verse 9. The Lord said, my ways is higher than your ways. In Isaiah, he said, I tell you things that's right. But yet, we don't want to judge anybody off of that. Right? God said, judge righteous judgment. We don't want to do that. We're going to judge them how we feel. Hypocrite. If I judge you how I feel, then what? Luke 18 and verse 9. Go ahead.
And he spake this parable unto certain which trusted in themselves that they were righteous. And
trusted in
despised others.
themselves that they were righteous. How many of us do that? How many of us trust in ourselves that we are righteous? You know, you might not, like, for an example, you might not think that you are acting that way, but let somebody else tell them about how they feel, how you act on a daily basis. They might say, hey, man, I think that you think you're more righteous than everybody else. I think you think that you're better than us. This parable is about that. It says, and he spake this parable unto certain which trusted in themselves that they were righteous and despised others. Go ahead.
Verse 10. 2 men went up into the temple to pray, the one a Pharisee and the other a publican. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself, God, I thank thee that I am not as other men are, extortioners.
How do you pray like that? Literally, he sat there and said, hey, I'm happy I'm not like everybody else. Happy I don't commit adultery like this person doing a job that pollutes the Sabbath like this person. I'm happy I'm better than everybody. That's what he is saying. Keep going.
Verse 12. I fast twice in the week. I give tithes of all that I possess. And the publican, standing far off, would not lift up his eyes unto heaven, but smote upon his breast, saying, God be merciful to me, a sinner.
So we seeing the different spirits on this individual. We seeing the individual as a hypocrite, because we can read in the scriptures, there's not one just man that sinneth not. That's why everybody pronounced, that's why death is upon everybody. Everybody commits sin. So rather than you sitting here boasting yourself about how much less sin you have, let's say, instead of doing that, you should pray for mercy because we all have sin. And to be honest, the individuals that are doing things like they're supposed to do, the Bible says you doing what you ought. You ain't doing nothing special. You're not even doing anything special. But we don't look at it like that because we're super prideful, and that's what breeds hypocrisy. You got 2 men that's in the temple. One is a Pharisee who keep the law way better than us. Way better than us. He sat there and says, I'm happy I'm not like all of them. They are adulterers, they this, they that, and I'm happy I'm not this publican. And the other one that's a publican that said, just forgive me. And it's not about nobody else but themselves. Right? When Adam and Eve sinned, Adam sat there and said Eve did it. That didn't take away the punishment from Adam at all. Not one bit. Adam still got it. And that's what my kids do. Jordan, why you do that? Well, Titus did it. What does that have to do with you? You did this. But yet, that's how he's looking at it. I'm better than this person, God, so I must be doing something right. Nah, not at all. Finish that. Where you at?
Verse 14.
14, go ahead.
And I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other.
So the one that's the justifier, which is Christ, went down. I mean, this individual that was humble, he was more justified than the individual that was boasting in himself because of the stuff that he was actually doing things right, though. Think about it. It's not like what he's doing is wrong. Like, I fast this day. That's good. I'm not committing adultery. That's good. But because of he boasting in himself and being a hypocrite as if he never sinned at all, he is going down more or less justified than the actual publican. That's something for us to think about. Even if you are doing what you're supposed to do, that don't mean you ahead of the curve at all. We still crying and begging for mercy, where you should. I tell you, this man went down to this house justified rather than the other. Go ahead.
For everyone that exalteth himself shall be abased, and he that humbleth himself shall be exalted.
Romans 10. Romans 10 and verse 1. 10 and 1. Go ahead.
Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God of Israel is, to God for Israel is, that they might be saved. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge.
We have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge. Go ahead.
Verse 3. For they, being ignorant of God's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves to the righteousness of God.
How many times have you heard of this? How many times have you heard or seen individuals establishing their own righteousness? Hey, look, man, the Bible says this. Well, I don't think he should do that because of how I feel. What do your feelings have to do with God's righteousness? This is what he can do. Well, I don't think he can do that. Once again, you are sitting there and you are ignorant of God's righteousness and going to establish your own righteousness. That's what you're doing there. A straight hypocrite. A straight hypocrite. How can a man sit here and tell her, hey, man, my woman ain't doing this, my woman ain't doing that. Hey, man, have mercy. Well, I don't want to. I'm about to leave. Bro, you ain't doing this and you ain't doing that. So how can you ask for mercy but ain't trying to give mercy? Like, this is what we are dealing with right now. This is the message that is being given. Finish that.
I am sought of them that asked not for me. I am found of them that sought me not. I said, behold me, unto a nation that was not called by my name.
Talking about the Gentiles in Isaiah. Like, look, they seeking me and you guys aren't. Go ahead, verse 2.
I have spread out my hands all the day unto a rebellious people.
And we are rebellious. He spread out his hands all day into us, and we are continuing to rebel. Keep going.
Which walketh in a way that was not good, after their own thoughts.
After their own thoughts, establishing their own righteousness. That's not good. This way is good. We can look at that in Jeremiah. It says, seek ye the old paths, the good paths. But you don't want that. You'd rather not do that. You want to do your own way. That's hypocritical. Look, if you don't want to believe in the Bible, don't believe in the Bible. But don't sit here and say, or the Bible, like, it's kind of like, let's say, somebody asks a question, and there's different tones, there's different spirits, there's different, every back and forth isn't like this. But somebody asks the question, hey, do you go to heaven? I read you clear cut of the Bible. No, you don't go to heaven. And then they turn around and say, oh, but the book says here this. Bro, yeah, obviously it can't be that if it says you can't go to heaven. Obviously it had to be something different, right? But what's their own? They literally trying to create their own way. They don't want to believe what's in the Bible. They're being a hypocrite, but they want to stand on it. You can't do that. You got to take it all, take it none. Keep going.
Verse 3. A people that provoketh me to anger continually to my face, that sacrifices in gardens, and burneth incense upon altars of bricks. which remain among the graves, and lodge in the monuments, which eat swine's flesh, and broth of abominable things in their vessels, which say, stand by thyself, come not near to me, for I am holier than thou.
For I am holy. And say, he want to do all this, doing everything that's contrary to the book, but then want to turn around and say, I'm holier than you. Right? That's what he is talking about. And he's talking about his people that's doing this. These are not people that's out on the street. These are church folk. Right? This is people that keep the Sabbath. This is what they're doing. Oh, I'm holier than this person. Oh, he did that? Oh, I'm better than that person. I'm good. It's kind of like in the Gospels when they was like, Christ, which one of us is better in the kingdom? Which one of us is better? He was like, man, you got to humble yourself like a kid. That individual is the good one. Right? All of them are prideful, which, like I said, that's one of the first things that feeds into hypocrisy. Prideful, fear, in God's nose. Like, that's a big irritant. Extreme irritant right there. That's how he think about, this is what he think about hypocrites. Somebody that's boasted of themselves, that try to be making themselves, this is what he's seeing. You are a smoke in my nose. Like, kind of like what it says in Luke. I can't wait to throw you in the lake of fire. I have this thing where I come to do, and I can't wait till I can do it. Because y'all are irritating. How can you say this? But how can you say, how can you supposed to be a scribe, a Pharisee, you supposed to be somebody of the law. The book curse thy mother and father, and you saying all you have to say is raka, and it's good. You hypocrite. Right? You are a smoke in my nose. Now, and verse 1, go ahead.
Take heed that you do not your arms before men, to be seen of them. Otherwise ye have no reward of your Father which is in heaven. Therefore, when thou doest thine alms, do not sound a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward.
So how are they hypocrites? Because they doing these things, like he said, to be seen of men. They're not doing it because of the book said it, right? They're not doing it. They're not doing it because they trying to serve God, right? They just want to be noticed. They just want to be identified where Elijah and them sit at. Like I was telling it was a lady from Chicago that came out here a few weeks back. She was like, and it's usually reverse. Like this statement, this is the first time I ever heard this statement. But she was like, yeah, I knew Travis was out there. I never heard of you. I'm like, I like that. I don't want you to know me. Like I don't want you to know I'm a teacher. I don't want that. Because oh man, Rashad doing this. He's supposed to be a teacher and he doing this. He like guns. Teachers like guns. They do that right there. I don't know about Israel Church of Jesus. I don't know about them. I don't know about them at all. Right? I don't want to know. Right? And I think this should be and like I said, that is usually opposite, but this should be the motive. This should be our goal. But nevertheless, everybody wants to be noticed. Oh, I'm mad because Elijah didn't put me in the calendar this year. Yeah, bro, what does that have to do? You just want somebody to see you. Look at me, I'm here. I'm keeping the Sabbath again. And let me put on Facebook with I'm gonna put this scripture up on Facebook. For what? Like what? For what? You want somebody to like it? Like what is that? It literally don't make sense to me. But that's what we do. We want to be seen. We want to be seen. Therefore, it said, therefore, when thou dost thy alms, do not sound a trumpet before thee, right? And every time you go on social media, they trying to give out food to the homeless, and they got cameras around. Earlier, this lesson could have been so detailed and so much longer because there's so many different avenues that can make you a hypocrite. So many of them. You want to be a seen of man, you hypocrite, the hypocrite, the synagogues in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. Verse 3.
But when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth.
That's how secretive you should be. No one should know what you're doing. Keep going.
Seen of men.
And it's this show I watched. It's called Shots Fired. I don't know if some of y'all saw it. It's dope. It don't really come out no more. I only had one episode. One season. Yeah. But it was dope, right? It was super, super dope. And it was about us, about brutality of cops, but the roles were reversed. You had a black cop shooting a Gentile kid, and you had a black prosecutor and all this other stuff. Simply reversed big time. So in that, it was this woman. She was a woman, and she was trying to get her name out there as a political rights leader, a religious leader, and she, everywhere she goes, she have cameras on her. When it come down to praying, you trying to pray to be seen of men. Hey man, hey guys, I just said this prayer for you. Man, that's cool. I appreciate it, right? Or man, pray for me. Okay, I see. That's cool, right? But then people go overboard with it. Oh man, just so they can say that was a good prayer. Oh, thank you. And then that's all they reward. That's all they get. And when thou pray, they may be verily they already got their reward. They being noticed. Like you being a hypocrite don't do nothing for the Lord. Like you're not getting any brownie points for that. And we see that in this same chapter where it says, Lord, Lord, have you not done many marvelous things? Nah, I mean you have, but you still a hypocrite. Because you're doing this stuff to be seen. Keep going.
Verse 6. But when thou prayest, enter into thy closet. When thou shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. And thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly.
Keep going.
But when ye pray, use not vain repetitions, as the heathens do.
Now this is not what, how we sit here and use the Lord's Prayer. That's not what this is saying, because the Lord sat there and told us to make this prayer. Right? This is how he told us how to pray. But that vain repetition is just you just saying, you don't even know what you're talking about. Right? You just up there, like when people try to sit there and try to speak in tongues, or when these individuals are just making a bunch of noise while they up there making you just say use not vain repetition as the heathen do, for they think that they should be heard for they much speaking. You don't have to explain to the Lord 17 times that you need a new car. Keep going.
Verse 8, be not ye therefore like unto them, for your Father knoweth what things ye have need of, before ye ask him.
Skip down to verse 16, go ahead.
Verse 16, moreover, when ye fast, be not as the hypocrites, of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, that they may appear unto men to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward.
And we have the individuals that do this too. Every time they fast, they got to be known one way or another that they're fasting. Keep going.
Verse 17. But thou, when thou fast, anoint thine head and wash thy face, that thou appear unto men to fast, but unto thy Father.
That thou appear not unto men to fast. Now let's go to, we're going to switch gears a little bit. Let's go to Matthew 11. We're staying in Matthew. But we're going to look at how people are hypocrites towards one another, not just using generalizing it, but we're going to start looking at specific things. Matthew 11 and verse 16. And it's funny that this was on Question and Answer this Wednesday, and it's funny that this was brought up to show how the Spirit worked, because I wanted to use this for hypocrisy, but it was kind of, I didn't know if it fit, but Elijah said it in Question and Answer off something totally different. I was like, man, that's funny how that works. Matthew 11 and verse 16. Go ahead.
But whereunto you shall I liken this generation? It is like unto children sitting in the markets and calling unto their fellows.
So he's talking about this generation, because we all are hypocrites. Pretty much is what he's talking about, right? All of us are here in Jesus' day, and they're not that much different from the forefathers that were the prophets. Not at all. So he said, what can I liken this generation? It's like children sitting in the markets calling unto their fellows, right? Trying to get their attention. It's like kids trying to get attention from their friends. Go ahead.
Verse 17, and saying, we have piped unto you, and ye have not danced. We have mourned unto you, and ye have not lamented.
They just don't want it. We have piped. We having a party. Hey man, look, come by this day. We having a party. We about to have a good time. No one shows up. right? It's a funeral going on or a sad situation. We try to have a group fasting. Nobody showing up. But then you want to turn around and say there's no camaraderie in the church. What are you talking about? People doing it, you just not involved because you just don't want to be. We dance, we mourn, nobody lamented, y'all don't care at all. And then he's going to explain what he's talking about. Verse 18.
For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say, he hath a devil.
Right. Go ahead.
For the Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, behold, a man gluttonous and a wine bidder.
How hypocritical is that? On one end, you have somebody who's not doing nothing at all, and he's a bad person. Oh, yeah, he a bad person. He doing this. I ain't dealing with him. Then you got somebody who's on the opposite spectrum, and you don't want to deal with him. Because you the problem, not them. That's why he said, we piped, no one danced. So on this, because in the sinners. Go ahead.
But wisdom is justified of her children.
Right, but hey, wisdom is justified of her children. Meaning, his people is going to hear his voice. His people is going to hear his voice. Right? The ones that know how God sounds, they going to hear him. The ones that don't, hey, they won't. Like, you know, like nope, ain't gonna say that. Let's go to Ezekiel 33. Ezekiel 33 and verse 30. Ezekiel 33 and verse 30. And go ahead.
Also, thou son of man, the children of thy people still are talking against thee by the walls and in the doors of thy houses.
I thought that was funny. Starting it off like, yeah, hey man, I'm gonna let you know, bro. They talking about you. Yeah, of course. Right? Of course. Matter of fact, I'm starting to feel like I'm part of the club now. I'm seeing it in here. I'm seeing Jesus. I'm looking at Gary, looking at all these cats. I'm like, okay, so it's not just me then. Okay, cool. I'm starting to feel at home. Because we seeing Ezekiel dealing with it. Also, thou son of man, thou children of thy people are still talking about you. Still talking against thee by the walls and the doors of houses. Go ahead.
Cometh, and they sit before thee as my people, and they hear thy words, but they will not do them. For with their mouth they show much love, but their hearts go after their covetousness.
So many people come to church for no reason. Soon they leave. They still out there. Some people don't even show up. Let me open the doors. Let's see who's in the parking lot right now. Just post it. Crickets? What is that? What are you talking about? That's what he's talking. People come to church and they listen what's going on, supposedly, but they're not doing anything. They just come in because it's a show. They come in because ain't nothing else to do. And then that's why a lot of individuals end up leaving. They end up leaving. Oh, man, it's boring. Man, I heard that lesson before. Oh, man, I can't wait till Elijah come. They suck. Whatever the situation. Hey, you're not coming in for me. You're coming for the word. Right? That's what you're coming for. But yet they have all these parts. But that's what's going on here, though. Ain't nothing new. We're reading it here. These are another form of hypocrites. They showing up for no reason. They showing up just to show. And they came unto as the people cometh, and they sit before thee as my people do. And they hear thy words. They not interrupting you. They ain't doing nothing salty or nothing. But they will not actually do them. For with their mouth they show much love, but what?
But their hearts go after their covetousness.
Keep going.
And lo, there art unto them a very lovely song of one that has a pleasant voice.
Some people just go, they just like looking at you. That's what he is saying. They're not coming for my word at all. They're coming because you sound good on a microphone. You are a show. You give them attention. Right? It's like they watching TV. But as soon they ain't doing. As soon they leave here, they better go get like some type of red pork sandwich or something like that. They don't care. Right? They still celebrating Christmas. They making plans for Christmas. They even asking you to do it. Hey man, you want to come over to the Christmas? No. Nope. Not at all. And I hope my auntie watching this. She be the main one. Like, lady, why you here then if you ain't going to? See, that's why, leave it alone. He said, and lo, they are unto them as a lovely song of one that has a pleasant voice. And go ahead.
And can play well on an instrument, for they hear thy words, but they do not do them.
But they will not do them. They will not do. Hypocrites. Hypocrites. You can't say this is not talking about us. But we're not looking at it like that. Because we looking at it like this publican. Oh, I went to Sabbath. I went to, man, how long you been in the book? I've been in the book for 10 years. Okay, you got me. You got me 2 years, okay. What? What does that matter? Why are we asking people how long they been in it like that? That don't make no sense. They could be in it 100 years but have no knowledge. But we just want to know because we don't know, oh, okay, so you got me. Okay. What? That literally, it don't make no sense. Everything is a tally mark. It's like Kobe. I was watching this thing where Kobe and Tracy McGrady was talking, and they was like, Tracy McGrady like, man, we wasn't playing one-on-one. Kobe was like, when don't I keep points? I'm always keeping points. That's how we are. We try to keep points on everything. I've been in longer, so I'm first, right? I'm first because I've been in longer. I brought him in. What we talking about right now, right? It's all about, once again, it's all about hypocrisy. You know, the same reason how the Israelites try to force the Gentiles to be circumcised up in Acts. They were just doing it just so they can see themselves, so they can be glorified. That's what Paul said. They just want to be glorified. It had nothing to do with the Lord. None of these conversations, none of the things that we do on a day-to-day basis have anything to do with the Lord. Right? It's all tally marks. Finish that up.
I did.
You did? All right, let's go to Job 15. Job 15. It's all tally marks. The Lord looking at that like, man, you big hypocrite. And like we read in Matthew 5, we got nothing but the lake of fire, if that's what we are. If we are hypocrites, we go in the lake of fire. That's simple. And you can even keep the commandments, but still be known as a hypocrite. Job 15 and 34, one verse. Go ahead.
For the congregation of hypocrites shall be desolate, and fire shall consume the tabernacles of bribery.
For the congregation of the hypocrites shall be desolate. Ain't nothing for you. Ain't nothing for you. And we've been looking at these scriptures. We have been in the New Testament majority of this lesson. We will be in the New Testament. So this is the Lord saying this stuff about hypocrites, that there's nothing for you. Nothing at all. For the congregation of the hypocrites shall be desolate, and fire shall consume the tabernacles of bribery. Let's go to Isaiah 29 now. Isaiah 29 and 13. Isaiah 29 and 13. Isaiah 29 and verse 13. Go ahead.
For the Lord said, for as much as this people draw near to me with their mouth, and with their lips do honor me, but have removed their hearts far from me, and their fear toward me is taught by the precept of men.
The fear towards me have been taught by the precept of men. Like, and even the best of us deal with this. That's why Paul had to deal with Peter. Because literally in Galatians, we read it last time we was up here. It said, "Why are you living like the Gentiles, trying to force the Gentiles to live like you? You being a hypocrite. Like if you coming up in here with grace and all this other stuff, why are you going to try to throw the law down their throat? Like as soon as they mess up, they're gone. You've been a hypocrite because you should be gone, right? So, but it's once again, it's fear towards men. But that's why I said there's so many different spirits that cause you to become a hypocrite, and that's what we're trying to stay away from. Wherefore service, but have removed their hearts far from me, and the fear towards me have been taught by the precept of men. Verse 14.
Behold, I will proceed to do a marvelous work among this people, even a marvelous work and a wonder. For the wisdom of their wise men shall perish, and the understanding of their prudent men shall be hid. Woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from the Lord, and their works are in the dark. And they say, who seeth us, and who knoweth us?
They think no one see. But we can read in Psalms, I think it's 134, that, hey, the Lord sees in the dark like it's in the daytime. You can't hide from this individual. right? Just because you have an outward show and you come into church every Sabbath, yeah, you might be able to, have one of us confused thinking you actually doing what the Bible say, but the Lord knows everything. And that's why, like in Isaiah 5, I ain't gonna say. Let's go to let's go to Luke 12. Let me go to Luke 12. Just trying to read what's up on here, because I'm telling y'all, I was literally sitting down on the couch trying to remove scriptures, and I still want to say them, but I think it just it won't behoove anybody. I think it's going to turn into something different. Luke 12, verse 1. Luke 12 and verse 1. Go ahead.
In the meantime, when they were gathered together an innumerable multitude of people, insomuch that they trod one upon another, he began to say unto his disciples, first of all,
What he said to them?
Beware ye of the leaven of the Pharisees.
Depart from the faith, right? It talk about their mind seared with iron. And then it also talk about their doctrine being hypocrisy. And the Lord telling you, he's warning you of this, right? And because the reason why it's such a warning, because like the book says, we all have itching ears. And if somebody says something we like, we are leaving. And we seeing that. The great falling away has happened. Like, it's been a lot of strong brothers that's been falling away because they're feeding into the people by letting them say what they like. Oh yeah, tell me that's wrong. Yep, see, I told you that's wrong. I'm divorcing you now because I can. Nah, you can't. But since they are being fed the leaven of Pharisees, which is hypocrisy, and that's why he's warning everybody about that. And then he said this in verse 2, which is a piggyback off of what we read in Isaiah 29. Verse 2, go ahead.
For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known.
Right, in Isaiah 29, it says they try to hide. And the Lord said, you can't hide. I know what you're doing. So there's no point of being a hypocrite. There's no point. If you don't want to do it, just don't do it. It's that simple. Why act like you're doing it? For there is nothing covered that shall be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. Verse 3.
Therefore, whatsoever ye have spoken in darkness shall be heard in the light, and that which ye have spoken in the ear and closet shall be proclaimed upon the housetops.
Everything that occurred is going to be shown. All your That's why Paul in Corinthians, he said, don't judge anything before it's time. Right? Hey, when God come back, the light gonna be shown on everybody, and we gonna know who really was doing what. Right? Maybe it appeared that this dude is doing something sideways, but once that light shine, you see, his girl was tripping. He was just trying to do the best that he can, or vice versa. Right? So don't be sitting here trying to judge something, being a hypocrite, judging them, trying to take the mote out of somebody else's side when you got that beam in yours. Let's go to Matthew 23, and we're almost done. Matthew 23, and it's supposed to be 1 to 12. Matthew 23 and verse 1. So when it says, I kind of moved it around too, but this should have been, I wanted this at a different part, but I think it kind of fits here. Talking about the scribe and Pharisees and talking about their hypocrisy and denouncing it all. We're going to look at some of these characteristics now. Matthew 23 and verse 1. Go ahead.
Then spake Jesus to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat.
Once again, the issues that he had, of course, the publicans and the sinners and the whores and the whoremongers and all these people that's out here doing crazy stuff, they know they doing something wrong. Like me and Jay, we got a boy that we used to work with. He used to work with him. That he sat there and I'm going to hell, bro. I don't care. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Okay. Well, at least he ain't faking it. There's some of us up in here that's out. Look, some of us up in here probably doing the same thing he's doing, but trying to act like we're not. Right? And so my point is the Lord ain't out there necessarily
judging them that's without. They already got it. Like whatever's coming from them is already coming from. He worrying about us. That's why he's dealing with the scribes and the Pharisees, flipping over tables and cutting us up and beating us over the head so much, because like it said in Peter, judgment begins at the house of the Lord first. It begins with us first, and this is our judgment. And we have some time to get it right. And while we're alive, we still have that time. So the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat and do what? Go ahead.
All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do. But do not after their works, for they say and do not.
So he sat there and said, do what they say. But don't do their works, because what they do, they say and do not. Go ahead, verse 4.
For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them upon men's shoulders, but they themselves
ain't strong enough to do it, or they don't even want to try to do it. The Lord knows my heart. It's different. You can't do it, but it's different. Like, that's a good thing. No, it's ain't a good thing for the woman or for you, right? But no, it's different when it comes to them. God knows my heart. Nah, that's not it. Everybody go through the same thing. You got to control yourself like everybody else. But these individuals don't. They put the burden on everybody else, but when it comes down to them, they're different. They don't even want to move these burdens. Kind of like with the circumcision. They were sitting there and said, why are you going to lay all these burdens on us, on them, that we couldn't even do it, or our fathers couldn't do? But we're trying to force them to do it. Verse 5.
But all their works they do seen of men.
We've seen that already. That's all they do, to be seen of men. And what they do specifically? Go ahead.
They make broad their phylacteries.
That had to do with fringes, right? Trying to be seen. Now, some people actually doing it just because that's them and their faith. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Actually, I think it's kind of cool. You know what I'm saying? But you have others, individuals out there that's literally doing it just to be seen. I think I told this story before, man. When I had my uniform, I went to what was that? That chicken spot on Cheyenne. That chicken spot on Cheyenne. Been there forever. Hamburger Hut. It's funny how a chicken spot called Hamburger Hut. But you go to Hamburger Hut. I was there, right? Dude, fringes, got it all, playing some Hebrew music. I'm just sitting there, right? And then the ladies called my order. Israel? I walked up, I got it, and his mouth dropped. Oh my goodness, you this, you that, you this. Man, I already know about it. Oh man, where your beard at? I'm at work. A little bit different, right? Moses didn't have a beard. There's a good chance he didn't. He was in Pharaoh's house. The Egyptians didn't get down like that. Joseph didn't get down like that, right? There's things that people have to do. God understand that, right? But I bet you it's totally different from me. If he trying to sit here and talk to somebody about the Bible, they're less likely to hear him than they would actually me. Because I ain't trying to throw things in their face. I ain't trying to be better than nobody or nothing like that, right? I ain't trying to be seen them in. Like I told that lady, it's good you don't know me. I'm happy you don't know me. I mean, ain't nothing bad you can say. But I bet as soon as she left.
Shut up.
Man, this man picked me up late. Ain't no servant of God gonna pick me up late. I knew them boys ain't gonna keep going.
And enlarge the borders of their garments. And love the uppermost rooms at feasts and the chief seat in the synagogue.
Love to be seen. I gotta say something. You gotta know I'm here. Man, whatever. You got it. Keep going.
And greetings in the market, and to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi.
They're calling Pope Father, right? Not at all. Go ahead.
Neither be ye called masters, for one is your master, even Christ. But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant.
And that's not how we look at it. He that is greatest among you shall be a servant. Like we had one of these talks and on this Friday night talks, I was letting cats know that, hey, since you running the place, you are the servant. Well, what you mean? Look, you go out and work and you bring the money home. You serving your family. Just like how they serving you, you serve. It's all a circle. And it's like, man, what the Lord's saying, right? Elijah, he's serving us. He got the churches all over the place. He paying all these bills. This man never sleep. He never, all this other stuff, right? For what? Just so we can come to class on Saturday. That's how it should be. But we don't look at it like that. We want to be upmost and top and not do any work. How did that work? You used to be the first one to get your hands dirty. The first one. Like my favorite captain was an individual that got his hands dirty. Like me and him was working to see who worked harder. Should be. But we don't look at it like that. Go ahead.
First humble himself shall be exalted.
We're going to go to Luke 11. It's reading the same thing what it says in Matthew 23, but just hella less scriptures and being a little bit more specific. Have to guess about what he's talking about. Luke 11 and verse 37. Go ahead.
And as he spake, a certain Pharisee besought him to dine with him. And he went in and sat down to meat.
So one of the Pharisees like, hey man, would you come down and eat with me? He like, all right, I'm gonna go eat with you, right? So that's the picture that we have. Verse 38.
And when the Pharisee saw it, he marveled that he had not first washed before dinner.
Right, saying are disregarding the traditions of our fathers. So he's literally like, forget that. I ain't washing. I'm gonna come up in here and eat just so you can say something so I can educate you. Go ahead. 39.
And the Lord said unto him, now do ye Pharisees make clean the outside of the cup and the platter, but your inward part is full of.
You don't have to look, I mean, you don't have to just, you don't have to literally sleep with them. You can just think about it, right? What's the point of God making it where it all starts in the mind? Because first off, sin starts in the mind. And second of all, because Pharisees have the outward appearance like they doing something good, but inside they on something totally different. And we seeing that. The Lord says, now do ye Pharisees make clean the outside of the cup and the wickedness, right? You a big hypocrite. On the outwards, you showing all this, but really you're not about that. Verse 40.
Ye fools, do not he that made which without make that which is within also? But rather give alms of such things as ye have, and behold, all things are clean unto you.
But rather, all you got to do is just give alms and you clean. Ain't that a doctrine out here? You can be saved by alms. If you give alms, you'll forgive. If you give alms, God will forgive you from your sins. It sounds like a Pharisee. Because literally, but rather, instead of cleaning the inside, you'd rather just give alms, give what you have, and behold, now everything is clean. That's what the Pope say. Oh man, I sinned. I did X, Y, and Z. To say 50 Hail Marys and give me $30,000 and your sins are forgiven. They were like, oh, okay, cool. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Verse 42.
But woe unto you, Pharisees, for ye tithe mint and rue and all manner of herbs, and pass over judgment and the love of God. These all ye have done, and not to leave the other undone.
So you ain't doing nothing bad. Yeah, you are tithing and stuff. That's good. But you also not showing proper judgment. You are not. You don't have the love of God at all, right? The love of God. Hey, love your neighbor as yourself. Die for your brother like God died for you. We can all look at that in John. They weren't doing that. They weren't with that at all. So he said, "Woe, you'll do that, but everything else you won't do. Not at all. Woe to you." Verse 43.
Woe unto you, Pharisees, for ye love the uppermost seats of the synagogues.
The upper room.
And greetings.
Hey, Pastor. Hey, how you doing? If y'all see me, bro, I'll be walking with my hat low, pistol on me, trying to have all my kids walk as fast as they can. I don't want nobody. Man, they had I'm not going to say that. Keep going.
Verse 44. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. For ye are as graves, which appear not, and the men that walk over them are not aware.
But no, he wanted it apparently, and the Lord gave it to him. Go ahead.
46. And he said, woe unto you also, ye lawyers, for ye lay men with burdens grievous to be borne, and ye yourselves touch not the burden with one of your fingers.
Same thing we read in Matthew 23, right? That's what they do. The lawyers are experts in law. So Pharisees and Sadducees, and you have lawyers. Some of the Pharisees and Sadducees were lawyers. They wore both hats. And he's saying you are sitting here putting laws on these individuals, pretty tough, but you're not doing it. Right? You saying, hey, somebody on their period, they got to leave. If they ain't leave, you can't. But you ain't doing that, right? I ain't gonna get on that. Let's keep going. Let's go to verse 47.
Woe unto you, for ye build the sepulchres of the prophets, and your fathers killed them.
He said, you build the sepulchres of the prophets, and your fathers killed them. So your fathers killed the prophets, right? And you are trying to undo what your fathers did by creating tombs and representing the prophets, right? We can also look at the same thing in Matthew 23. It says the same exact thing, but you are trying to represent the prophets, but you are just bringing memory that your fathers killed them. That's what you're doing. So he said, woe unto you, for you build the sepulchres of the prophets, and your fathers killed them. But even though you build the sepulchres of the prophets, don't forget your fathers were the one that killed them. So understand what line you come in. Verse 48.
Truly ye bear witness that ye allow the deeds of your fathers.
And truly you are with them. What do you mean by that? Because you persecuting me. You persecuting the prophets now. You're going to be the ones that's killing the prophets. So imagine how hypocritical that is. Like you sitting here and you're talking about, like some of us do. Some of us would be like, oh man, if I was there when Jesus Christ was about to hang on the cross, I wasn't going to be the one that said, let this sin be on my kids. Or I wouldn't have done this if I was back then. I wouldn't do this when I was back then. And that's how they thought. Oh man, if I was around, I wouldn't have killed Isaiah. But yet you killing Jesus. Don't make sense. Hypocrisy. That's what he's talking about. It says, woe unto, verse 47, woe unto you, for ye build the sepulchres of all these deeds. Keep going.
For they indeed killed them, and ye build their sepulchres. 49. Therefore also said the wisdom of God, I will send them prophets and apostles, and some of them they shall slay and persecute. That the blood of all prophets which was shed from the foundation of the world may be required of this generation.
So, just like how prophets was back then and they were killed, even in our time, we might not go up there and stab them with a knife or hang them, but we're going to talk extremely bad about them. Extremely bad. Like I said already in Proverbs, it said hypocrites destroy their neighbors with their mouth. Kill them with their mouth. That's how we're killing them now. People talk all mess about everybody else. Oh, this teacher did this. This teacher did that. This teacher did. What do you? Very simple. You want to bring it up though. I gotta mention, Rashad was divorced once. What does that mean? Send them prophets and apostles, and some of them they shall slay and persecute. So they're gonna do the same exact thing their fathers did, but they're acting like they're different from their fathers. Hypocrites. Verse 50.
That the blood of all the prophets which was shed from the foundation of the world may be required of this generation. For the blood of Abel unto the blood of Zacharias, which perished between the altar of the temple. Verily I say unto you, it shall be required of this generation.
Right. This generation going to kill the prophets right at this time, just like how they did back then. And the same thing with us. Keep going. 52.
Woe unto you, lawyers, for ye have taken away the key of knowledge. Ye enter not in yourselves, and them that were entering in ye hindered.
You taking away the key of knowledge. You are a lawyer. Your job is to tell individuals the law and tell them what the law means. You're not doing that. You taking away the key of knowledge. But kind of like what the book says, save yourselves from this untoward generation, right? It tells you to worry about yourselves often. I did a lesson in LA a couple of years back talking about worrying about yourselves. Like that's what we need to do. Like it's dope to fellowship and do all this and do all that, but we too busy in everybody else's business. Everybody else's business and being being hypocrites. Revelation 2, right? 3 and verse 14. Go ahead.
And unto the angel of the church of the Laodiceans write, these things saith the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of God. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would thou worth cold or hot.
I'd rather be you cold or hot. It doesn't. You're not gaining anything being a hypocrite. Like you're not. You might as well go out there and have fun like the worldly people are right now. because you're going to get the same damnation as they will by him being. You might get thrown up in there first, right? He might try to make sure it's hot, or maybe you the last one in. He trying to make sure there's enough fuel up in there, then throw you up in there. For y'all don't know, fuel. The more fuel you have, the hotter it gets. In some cases. Go ahead, keep going.
Let's see, 15. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I will worth you cold or hot.
Keep going.
16. So when thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth.
I will spew you out of my mouth because you not hot or you not cold. If you was cold or if you was hot, then we can have some conversation. Maybe this, maybe that. But you lukewarm, so you playing with this. Yeah, you going. Last place, Job 3 and 16. Job 3 and 16. Job 13 and 16.
Okay.
Sorry. Job 13 and 16. Go ahead.
Job 13, 16. He also shall be my salvation.
Talk about Christ. Read verse 15 and go down to it.
Though he slay me, yet I will trust, but I will maintain mine own ways before him.
So you know what you're talking about. Go ahead.
He also shall be my salvation.
He, meaning Christ, also shall be my salvation for what?
For an hypocrite shall not come before him.
For a hypocrite will not come before him. I hope you got some understanding in Jesus' name.
Sabbath announcements. We welcome you and hope today's lesson increase your knowledge of the Holy Bible. In 1 hour after the lesson ends, we have question and answer every Wednesday at 5 p.m. via telephone conference line. The number and access code are located at the top of the lesson. Or see the live stream of question and answers at www.thykingdomcome7.com. If you're interested in being baptized, please place your name on the list at the literature table. Remember to follow the dress code when attending our services. Men should remove all hats and all head coverings during service times. Women should wear head coverings such as a hat or a scarf during the service. Women should not wear tight-fitting pants or skirts or revealing clothing. Attire should be modest according to the Bible. If your child becomes restless during the Bible lesson, we encourage you to remove your child from the room until he or she has settled. Your tithes and offering are always appreciated. Please place your tithes and offering in an offering envelope and deposit it in the offering box. Your cooperation is greatly appreciated. Again, thank you for coming, and we hope to see you next Sabbath. Peace.
Any statement, comments, thoughts? Nothing. The tabernacles coming up, all the feast days coming up in the next month or so. As far as the what you call that, the 7-day, 8-day tabernacle thing, there's a fire restriction all over the valley. So wherever we go, we won't be able to set no fire or actually have a legit campsite. So that's why I'm deciding not to do that as a whole. I don't want to be out in the woods somewhere and people cold and we can't start a fire and then everybody just going to go home anyway. So I might still go because that's just what I like to do anyways. So if y'all want to come, y'all can, but I'm not going to make it a big old, or try to make it a big old deal because we're just not set up in the Vegas area to have this thing pop off like I would like. And that's pretty much it. I'm still going to try to find something else to do. Maybe we can rent a venue or something and just have a party and have some talent shows or something like Jaleesa brought up a while ago. I'm going to still try to do something because I would like for the feast days to be cracking like how it was 3-4 years ago. So Lord willing, the funds will be where it's supposed to do and things will open up that will. I don't have nothing else. No one else got anything. We'll just close this thing out. What's up, sis? That's the person you talk to right there, the one that's holding the baby with the locks. Yep, talk to him. All right, I'm gonna close out. Huh? Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you about that. So yeah, they. So what we try to do in the beginning of the summer, we try to have everybody from LA come out here to Vegas. We try to do something like Cowabunga Bay, and now at the end of the summer, they doing things where we go out there. So it's a little get together on the 28th out there in LA. I'm gonna do my damnness to go. Hope you guys should go. It's gonna be food there, music there, water there. It's gonna be a good time. That's it. We posted that stuff on Facebook, or she did. So you guys should know a little bit about it. All right, we close out. You got it? I got it. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.